apologizing to everyone. Sorry for the delayed start. We had another webinar and that got a little bit delayed, but thank you for the patience and thank you for staying and joining in. All right.
Welcome.
All right, so we'll start without any delay and we'll make sure that, we'll wrap up by 5:30 so that we don't hold you all longer. So happy to see a lot of you joining today. We had quite a good workshop yesterday as well with classes six, 7, and 8. Very happy to see all of you here today. So actually, I would actually request you all to turn on your videos if possible. Let's make it a very interactive session, and if you can all see each other, it'll be really nice. So whoever it's possible, please turn on your videos. So also a few ground rules. One is that do keep your mics on mute when you are not speaking. And if you have any questions or if you want to volunteer to answer any question that we are asking, do raise your hand and then we'll call out your name and then you can answer. Okay, so just to introduce ourselves. So my name is Selna. I work with this organization called Council on Energy, Environment and Water. We are a not-for-profit research organization based in Delhi. Yes, Muskan, do you have any questions, something to say? Okay. Okay, please raise your hand if you have a question or if you want to answer a question that we're asking, all right? So yes, so we are CEW and we are currently working with BSES. Can anyone tell me, have you heard the name BSES? Who is BSES? Anybody wants to answer?
Which supply the electric power.
Yeah, exactly. So they are one of the major suppliers of electric power in Delhi, and they supply in South Delhi area. So we are actually, our organization, we are working with BSES right now, and we are helping them in promoting renewable energy and specifically rooftop solar in Safdarjung area. So we have a campaign running called Solarize Safdarjung. So as part of that, we are trying to talk to a lot of people about renewable energy, like adults and students alike, so that more and more people are aware about it and they understand what it is and what are the benefits and why we should all go for renewable energy. So today we want to do a very interactive workshop. We'll talk a little bit about renewable energy and why we should care about it, and then we'll be visiting a house in Ghaziabad where you will get a live demonstration of a system. And then if we have time, we will also do a quick activity where you'll understand how to design a rooftop solar system for your home and how you can estimate the savings. Okay. So I will now share my screen and take you through a quick presentation. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. So yeah, like I said, this is part of Solarize Safdarjung campaign that we are doing. And again, about our organization, we are Council on Energy, Environment and Water. So we work across different problems that our society faces in the domains of energy, environment and water, just like how our name says. So these are some of the teams that we have within our organization. And me and a few of my colleagues who are also on the call, we are all from the renewable energy team. And so obviously we'll be talking a lot about renewable energy today. So before we start, so you must have heard the terms global warming and climate change quite a lot, right? We've been hearing this a lot in news as well in the last few years. So can anyone tell me what is global warming? And you must have also studied this at school. So what is global warming and what is climate change? Anyone can volunteer to say? Is anybody raising your hand? I can't see actually. If no one's volunteering, I'll just call out someone's name.
I think Devanshi has raised her hand.
Okay. Devanshi, do you want to go ahead?
The increase in the Earth's temperature.
Yeah, exactly. So that is global warming. And do you know why that happens?
Nandini has also raised her hand, so maybe she can.
Yes, Nandini?
Ma'am, climate change includes both global warming driven by greenhouse gases and resulting in the large shift in the weather patterns.
Exactly, exactly. That is climate change. So global warming is a warming of the planet Earth, and climate change is the changes that is happening in our weather patterns because of this increase in temperature, right? And this all happens because of something called greenhouse gases. Okay, so there are five major greenhouse gases that are there. Have you studied about this? Can anyone list at least one of the greenhouse gases? Akash, is anyone raising their hand?
CFCs.
Yeah, Khushi and Devanshi again.
Yes, please go ahead.
Khushi,
Methane,
maybe.
Methane, yes, yes,
Carbon dioxide,
yes. Carbon
nitrogen,
dioxide,
Ozone.
ozone, yes,
nitrogen oxide,
yes, and also CFCs
Water
and
vapor.
water vapor. Yeah, so these are
Nitrous oxide.
nitrous oxide, exactly. So I have five here. Then ozone is also a greenhouse gas, but these are the most the top five major greenhouse gases. And and also if you look at the next slide, so you can see like the carbon dioxide emissions actually contribute to almost 76% of the total emissions that is happening in the around the globe. And second is methane, and then comes nitrous oxide, and then the other gases. And if you also look at the impact of these gases, so carbon dioxide has luckily the least impact in the sense that the increase in temperature caused by carbon dioxide is relatively lower. And compared to that, methane, nitrous oxide, and fluorinated gases, their impact is so much higher. Luckily for us, carbon dioxide is like higher, the contributes to the highest of the total proportion. Although the fluids, for instance, the CFCs are only 2% of the total impact, right? But I won't say totally lucky for us, right? It's already, even with this carbon dioxide, it is actually causing a lot of negative impact on our planet. And we're already seeing a lot of the effects of climate change as well, right? The instances of extreme weather events, floods, droughts, forest fires, all these are things that we are seeing in the recent years. So just to understand, how does these different greenhouse gases gets emitted into the atmosphere? Like from where does the 76% of this carbon dioxide comes? Like what are some of the activities that leads to this release in greenhouse gases?
Car pollution.
Yes, pollution from cars, yes. So transportation, not just cars, like all sorts of transportation, including aeroplanes.
factories.
Yes, factories, there are a lot of pollution emissions coming from factories, and factories, actually everything we use are produced in factories, right? Almost everything. So all the manufacturing of everything leads to some level of pollution. Anything else?
Ma'am, agriculture and industry.
Yes, exactly. So agriculture is another major contributor, be it farming, be it animal rearing, they all leads to and contributes to further greenhouse gas emissions. Anything else? There's a major contributor that you haven't mentioned.
Ma'am, electricity.
Exactly. So electricity and heat production is one major activity. Others are all like what you have mentioned: agriculture, industry, transportation, and even buildings. So buildings, like the waste that are generated from the residents, or like the gas leaks that happen from refrigerators. Heating of the buildings also causes some sort of emission. So there's buildings also. And if you look at like our country, India is actually world's third largest emitter in the world, right? So that means that whatever happens in India will have a large impact on the impact of climate change that is going to happen across the planet. So we as citizens of India, we do have a major responsibility to do things that can mitigate the effect of climate change. And then if we look a little bit more closely into the different activities that causes greenhouse gas emission, in India, 68% of the total emissions are coming from electricity and heat production. And then the second major contributor, one is transportation and one is agriculture. And then comes industry, and then we have waste. So even within the 68% of electricity and heat production, almost 51, like more than almost half of that is just from electricity generation, right? So if we look at electricity generation, and if we try to do that, like try to solve the problem of emissions from electricity generation, that itself can help a lot in reducing the emissions in India. So that's why today we are going to focus a bit more into the electricity generation, right? So why does this even happen? Like, have you learned about electricity production? How do we generate or produce electricity usually?
Hydroelectricity or coal.
Yeah, so but what is the process, like the electromagnetism, like you must have learned about that. Anyone?
Ma'am, like thermal power plants sort of.
Yeah, exactly. So we produce electricity in thermal power plants or hydro power plants, but do you know what is the process that happens there? The fundamental process. So the majority and especially the most of the conventional ways of generating electricity really involves like a moving part. We usually call it like a turbine, and that moving within an electromagnetic field, right? So when a turbine is moving within an electromagnetic field, electricity is produced. So that is a fundamental process that happens. And then how do you move the turbine, right? So for moving the turbine, we use different ways and different technologies, right? So but the fundamental process is that. So this is one way of producing electricity, and this is the most common, and majority of our power plants are based on this technology. So when we talk about the thermal power plants, right? One of you mentioned thermal power plants. So in thermal power plants, we use conventional fuels, or we call it fossil fuels, right? So coal, natural gas, or even there are cases oil. So you use such a fuel, you burn that, and when you burn that, these fuels are they have very high calorific value. So calorific value is the capacity of a material to generate a lot of energy when they are burned, or like when it goes through combustion. So when these fuels are burned, a lot of energy is generated, and a lot of steam is generated by burning these fuel. And then with the power of that steam is directed into a turbine, and then because of the energy from the steam, the turbine will actually move very fast within an electromagnetic field. And that's how then that leads to generation of electricity. So you are converting thermal energy into mechanical energy into electrical energy, right? So that is what happens in thermal power plants. But the only bad thing about this is that when combustion happens, when you're burning the fuel, along with heat, there's a lot of these byproducts that happen, and a major byproduct is carbon dioxide that is emitted into the atmosphere. So that is how electricity generation becomes a major reason for greenhouse gas adding up in our atmosphere, and of course leading to global warming. So how do we then resolve this issue, right? So that's where we have to think about new ways of doing the same thing. We will need electricity always, right? And the use of electricity is also increasing. So we can't not have electricity, but we have to think of ways in which to produce electricity without leading to this emission, right? So that's where we have something called clean energy technologies. So, or we also call it like renewable energy technology. Now, so renewable energy, you must have studied about renewable energy as well. So who can tell me like some of the renewable sources that you've heard about?
Wind energy,
Yes, wind energy. Any other examples?
solar energy,
Solar, yes.
hydro, power.
Hydro, yes, hydro. So we usually, hydro is a renewable energy, but we would prefer small hydro than large hydro, because large dams do have a lot of environmental issues as well. Then anything else?
Geothermal.
Tidal energy.
Yes, tidal, geothermal. And yeah, this is pretty much all the different renewable energy sources that we have, most commonly used. So who can then, will you be able to also explain to me how these technologies work? So I will tell you, give you one clue, right? Except solar energy, all the other five sources of energy that you see here uses the same principle, right? They are using a source of energy to turn a turbine, and then the rest of the process is mostly similar. So then now can you try and explain, say, how wind energy technology works? Who wants to try?
Through windmills.
Yeah, so what is happening in the windmills? Do we have any fuel burning here?
Ma'am, may I?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, there are wind turbines which use wind to make electricity. It
Yeah.
turns the blades of a turbine around a rotor,
Exactly.
which spins like a generator, and it creates electricity.
Exactly. So it's the same thing, right? In a thermal power plant, you're using steam, you're burning something to create steam to turn the turbine. But here in wind, we're actually using a naturally available resource. We're using the power of the wind to turn the turbine to create the electricity. So it's a similar, same way in hydro, right? You're using the falling water to turn a turbine. So of course, there we use different technical terms to the different types of turbines that we use, but essentially the principle is the same. Right? The only exception that in renewable energy, we're using renewable sources of energy that are naturally available in the environment. So same thing in tidal, we're using the power of the waves to turn like turbine-like structure. In biomass, we will again biomass is we are burning renewable source of energy and the emissions are low. Again, the steam, using steam is one way of generating electricity with biomass, but there are also other chemical reactions that can also lead to using biomass. And again, geothermal is using the energy that is below the surface of the earth. As we go below the surface, there's like hotter regions. We're using that to create steam, which will again move a turbine, and then we are creating electricity. So all the five, the principle is very much similar to a thermal power plant, except they're not using a polluting source of fuel. Now solar is slightly different, especially within solar. How do we use sunlight? We can use sunlight in many different ways to create electricity. But the most common, especially the most common technology that we use are in India, it's called photoelectric or PV technology. So can anyone tell me what happens in a solar plant, or what is a photoelectric technology? So I can't see if anyone's raising your hand. Akash, can you help me with that?
Yeah, I'm checking. Nandini has her hand up again.
Yes, Nandini, do you want to explain what?
Ma'am, solar energies convert sunlight into electrical energy through panels.
Exactly.
Through panels, and these energy can be used to generate electricity, or they can be stored in batteries.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something called a photoelectric effect. There are some materials that when sunlight falls on it, the electrons on that gets excited, they move, and electricity is created. So in a while you will hear more about it. So I'm not going to explain that a lot. So these are the different renewable energy technologies that are there. And in India, the first three that you see, solar, wind, and hydro, we have a lot of that because, India is blessed with a lot of sunlight. There are areas in India where there's a lot of wind available throughout the year. Then there are regions where, hydropower, like rivers are there. So dams can be constructed, especially small dams can be constructed. So so the top three that you see actually has a lot of potential in India that you see a lot in India as well. Biomass again is another like high potential source of renewable energy for India. Again, that is slowly starting up in our country. Tidal and geothermal are the potential for that in India is little less. Again, tidal is also like there's a lot more research needs to be done in that front. So we won't talk about that. So today I'll also tell you a little bit more about wind and solar in the context of our country. So, India as a country, we do acknowledge that, we are going to play a huge role in mitigating climate change. And that is why we have like huge ambitions on scaling up wind and solar in the country, right? So if you think about like, say, 10 years back, we barely had any solar power plants in our country. We did have a little bit of wind power plants, but, most of our electricity generation used to come from thermal power plants. But in the recent years, as a country, we have acknowledged that, we need to transition to a renewable energy based electricity production. And we have been working towards that a lot. That's why we have these very ambitious targets. So we aim to have around 100 gigawatts of solar and 60 gigawatts of wind energy by 2022. That is just 2 years from now, right? And like, what does that even mean? That 160 gigawatts of wind and solar can power around 3.8 billion homes and offices in India. So that's a lot, right? And by 2030, we aim to have around 450 gigawatts of renewable energy. So that's a combination of multiple technologies. And even 450, so as of now, India has around 373 gigawatts of power generation capacity. That is the total. So we are aiming to have around 450 gigawatts by 2030. So much more than what we have. And that will be more than the total thermal capacity that we have today. So we have like such huge ambitions for the future. And if you look at what we have achieved so far, wind energy, we have around 38 gigawatts already installed. It is a really good number, although it is only 10% of our total power capacity. So 10% is not enough, right? We have to aim higher. We are aiming higher, and we have to now ensure that we reach our targets. So just to show you, some of the actual photos of the power plants that we have in our country. Most of the power plants are, states like Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu has a lot. So you can see that this is a wind power plant in Karnataka. This is one in Rajasthan, and this one is in Madhya Pradesh. And also like here you can see this is like an aerial view of a wind farm in Kutch in Gujarat. I don't know if you can see there's one turbine here, there's another one here, there's another one here, another one here. So these are, so as you can see, you have to, so one turbine is usually around 2 megawatts, but like power plant will usually be around 100, 200 megawatts. So you will need to have like hundreds of wind power plants located like with some spaces between them. That's how we usually see like a single wind power plant. See, you can see, right? So you will have like a large area covered with like these windmills in between. Can anybody guess like how tall these wind turbines are? What do you think? Yes?
Anyone? I'm not seeing any hands.
You can just guess any number.
Yeah, anyone would like to take a wild guess?
60 meter long.
60 meter, okay. Any other guesses?
Right. Anyone? You can tell in terms of floors. Sorry?
80 feet,
55,
80
like
meters,
55.
80 meters.
Okay.
70 to 100 meters.
70
Not
to 100
more
meters.
than 100.
Not more than 100. Okay. So yeah, almost all of these answers are correct because the earlier power plants, the first ones that we had used to be between like 50, 60, 80 meters. But the newest one, the ones that are getting installed right now, they are 100, and sometimes it even goes up to 120 meter, but not more than 120 meter as of now. But 100 and 120, that range also we can see, especially the new ones, and they are also larger and larger. Even the rotor diameter, so like the diameter of the whole turbine blade, we call it rotor diameter. So that can even go as long as like 180 meters. So that is really huge, right? So like, yeah, so and that gets bigger and bigger these days because the size of a single turbine is also increasing. Then you will need less space to install like large and large capacity. So similarly, solar energy, we have these large solar parks, again in mostly in southern and western states. And we have around 33 gigawatts of such large solar plants already installed. But the 33 is a huge number. You know, we had almost none, like say 10 years back, and now we have 33 gigawatts. So that is a huge achievement. But still, it's only 9% of our total capacity, right? So that is not enough. We need to scale up this a lot more so that we can completely transition into renewable energy based economy. And again, these are some of the examples, some of the photos from the parks that we have in one in Karnataka, one is Rajasthan, and one is Tamil Nadu. And similarly, some like Google Map images. So you can see this is a building that we have here, and so and this entire region, you know, you have like rows and rows of panels. So imagine the scale, right? So imagine how much this like stretches across this land. Again, this is another park in Gujarat. Here you can also see like slight color variations between different patches, right? So these are all multiple companies own and operate these systems. So you have like multiple power plants, but they're all located in a single area. So that is a solar park. And then all of these companies, then they sell this electricity to companies like BSES, and then they buy this and then they sell it to like all of us, like homes, our homes, offices, schools, etc. This is another one in Madhya Pradesh. This is like one of the largest power plants in India. This is in Deva in Madhya Pradesh. Yes, and now all these power plants, right? These are all large, like you can see how big they are, and these are like, you know, in very like empty. You need like large stretches of empty lands to install such huge power plants. But this is not just the only way to have renewable energy, right? These are all owned by like large companies as well, but that's not the only way. Like all of us, houses, offices, schools, shops, like there's an option that for all of us to also own and operate our own electricity using solar panels. And you know, the one option is to install them on the rooftop. So obviously we call them rooftop solar systems. Similarly, it can be installed in empty vacant land you have, or on top of car parking, etc. So this is large solar plant, but there's also the rooftop solar, right? And for rooftop solar, India wants to install 40 gigawatts of rooftop solar by 2022. Again, you know, that's only 2 years from now. But as of now, sadly, we only have 6 gigawatt installed. So that's only 15% of our total target. So, and this is also because, you know, this is something that individuals like us, or households and offices, companies, they need to buy and install these systems. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of awareness about this in our country. Like not a lot of people knows about it. And that's exactly why, you know, we are doing this campaign with BSES to trying to tell more and more people about it, and trying to get more people to, you know, buy a system and get all the benefits that they can get, because you can actually save a lot of money by having a rooftop solar system, and also you're contributing to the environment, right? So I'm not going to talk a lot about this right now. I will stop sharing my screen and I will hand it over to my colleague Akash, who is actually in Ghaziabad. He's gonna show you a rooftop solar system that he has in his house. Akash, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Selna. It was a really interesting presentation, and I hope we all picked up some interesting facts and information about the transition to renewable energy. So I just want to ask an open question right now. Has any of you, or do any of you have a rooftop solar system already on their roof? Because that would be like a really cool thing that we can discuss right now. So anyone who already has a rooftop solar system, maybe on their roof or their family, other relatives' roof, or they have seen a rooftop solar system with their own
Yes.
eyes, right? So maybe can you just quickly just share where did you see it and what did you see and exactly how was your experience?
It was actually my maternal uncle's house. When I went over there, we shifted over there. So
Okay,
I went to the rooftop and I saw some solar panels. So I just asked my uncle like what was it used for. So he told me that
right,
it was used for the generating electricity, and mostly half of the day was in the they used the electricity which was generated from that solar panels only for the half of the day.
great.
So that was actually really
So
good.
they essentially 50% of their demand.
Sorry.
Nice. And could you tell where did you see this plant? Where was your uncle's home?
It's in Model Town, Delhi.
Model Town, Delhi. All right. So I'm also right close to Delhi, right? As Selna said, I'm in Ghaziabad. I'm at my grandparents' house. I was born here, and my granddad, he's 80 years old, and even at that age, he understood the importance of having renewable energy and this transition that we're talking about using cleaner energy for ourselves and how each one of us can contribute. And he was very happy to install a rooftop solar system. So for those of you who have probably never seen one or haven't had the chance to actually go visit, I'll just now switch my camera and maybe I can just show you. So this right here is the rooftop solar system on my roof in Ghaziabad. Um, you can see around 10 panels, right? And they are all placed facing the same direction. Can anyone tell me what direction are they facing? So what direction is basically this side where they are facing?
Is it
A hint
east?
that
East.
east. Okay, is that any other guesses?
Towards the
That
sun.
is the sunset. That is the sunset happening. So if any of you, so that would be
I think the
west,
north.
right?
North.
North. Okay. So sadly, none of those answers are right. These are placed
South.
facing south. Yes, exactly. So sadly, I have a very big wall over here. But anyone can now guess why they are placed facing south?
So, because if they are placing towards the south, so they can face the sun all day long.
Yes, yes. So I can't see who actually answered, but that is essentially the correct answer. So quickly, my house, this side is east, right? And we are seeing the sunset happening over there. That is the west. So the sun basically goes from there all the way like that. So when the panels are facing in this direction, no matter if it's summer or winter, they can always face the sun. So it's a common practice to always, it's not just a common practice, it is the rule that you have to place your panels facing south if you're in the northern hemisphere, so that they can always face the sun and maximize their generation. So right now the sun is very low. You can see that it's almost setting down. There's not much sunlight falling on these panels. So they're not producing a lot of electricity right now, but it is still producing some electricity, right? So as the sun rises and around 10 a.m., these when the sun is like almost high up in the sky, these panels will produce the maximum amount of energy. So now Selna briefly touched upon how these panels produce electricity, but I can maybe go into a little bit more detail here. But any of you would like to take a crack, would like to take a guess on how these panels actually produce electricity? Anyone has a wild guess or any idea about what happens inside these
The
panels that creates
photovoltaic cells
electricity?
actually The photovoltaic
Right.
cells convert the light energy to electricity.
Right, right. Okay. So would you like to maybe go into a little bit more detail as to what exactly is the photovoltaic
Well,
cell doing, what is happening on a molecular level?
sunlight strikes the photovoltaic cell and a chemical reaction releases electricity, which is actually being used by us. Uh,
Right. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else has idea what guess? All right. Okay. So I'll just maybe quickly go over this. So I'll just zoom in here and I'll get really close to the panel. So if you can see, I can see like one cell over here, right? This square thing, this thing is called one solar cell. And we can see that there's a row of these cells. And the whole panel is made up of a lot of these cells, right? So what happens inside a cell is it is made up of silicon, right? And do you know what is the special property of silicon? If you have studied electromagnetism and electrical conduction, any idea why is silicon used in such panels? And it is also used in a lot of the other electronic components that we use. Okay, so Khushi has a very direct question, and I will just clear it right away. Khushi is asking if it's dangerous to touch the solar panels. It is not dangerous to touch the solar panels. You can touch them safely. They do not emit anything that is harmful for you, right? And they do heat up a little when they are right under the sun, but it's not enough to burn your hands. So you can touch them. You should definitely clean them almost every week so that the duration is maximum. So it's not dangerous to touch them. You can clean them, but you should be careful not to put too much pressure on them in case they break, because the top layer here is glass. Okay, so coming back to my explain, these silicon, these silicon, right? And if we see now, it's a bit dirty, but if you see, there are these vertical lines, very fine vertical lines in this. So what happens is silicon inside this cell, inside the solar cell, right? One layer has extra electrons and one layer has a lesser number of electrons, right? And they both are meeting at a point where it's called the p-n junction. Has any of you ever heard these terms, or am I talking something that is completely new? You can just say. Maybe the kids from 11th or 10th. All right, okay. So yeah, so whenever sunlight falls into this, so sunlight, as we all know, it's also a form of energy, right? We have seen how it heats up things. And if you use a magnifying glass, you can actually start burning things with it, which is pretty cool, right? So when the sunlight falls on this, sunlight is in the form of something called photons, right? A photon is a particle which is embedded in the light. So when the photon enters this, falls on this, what it does is it gives extra energy to one of the electrons, one of the areas which has extra electrons, right? And what it does is it removes that electron. So it displaces that electron, and now it is free to move inside the semiconductor or inside the panel, inside this solar cell that we are seeing here. So once that electron is free to move, depending on the layers. So there are two layers, like one layer that has extra electrons and one layer that has less electrons. So it will go from the layer where there are extra electrons to the layer where there are less electrons. And these lines decide the flow of those electrons. So what it does is all the electrons will flow in just one direction. And that direction is basically decided by these lines. And all of them will go towards the layer which is on the upper side of the panel. And as you can see these big lines and the thin lines, right? So what happens is all the electrons start flowing into these lines, and what we end up getting is an electric current. So now we have a flow of electrons a very direct flow of electrons that is moving in one direction. And now when you connect all of these together, you can now have a much larger current. And then you connect all these panels to a load where basically any appliance or any electrical appliance that uses electricity, and that completes the electric circuit. So that is how these panels can generate electricity. You will see that there's a lot of wires going, and I will just go under basically to show that each of these panels is connected to each other. So one of them individually might not be able to produce a lot of electricity, but when you connect them all together, they can produce sufficient energy to power your whole home. So this is around 10 panels, which is around 3 kilowatt of system, right? So 3 kilowatt of system means if these panels are producing energy for 1 hour, they will produce 3 kilowatt hours. So does anyone know what a kilowatt hour is? Has anyone heard of kilowatt hour? Okay, so I'll just go over it again. So the kilowatt hour is basically one electrical unit that you see in your bill. That is the so when you get your electricity bill and it says, okay, your consumption has been 500 units, it means you have consumed 500 kilowatt hours. So for example, now this 3 kilowatt unit, if it works for 10 hours, it will produce 30 units or 30 kilowatt hours. So this is how you can understand the size of these panels and how much electricity they can produce, right? So now we've seen the panels, we've seen that they all are connected to each other. They're all connected in series. And we can see that there are some cables going downstairs, which is the next step of this whole rooftop solar system. So if anyone has any questions, okay, I'm seeing a few questions in the chat. Khushi is asking me to install solar panels, and is it sufficient to install only one solar panel? Okay, so quickly, there's how much does it cost depends on what kind of panels you're installing and the vendor, but the government has decided fixed rates for the solar systems, for the different type of rooftop solar systems, depending on the size of the system you're installing. So it can range anywhere between 35,000 to 50,000 rupees per kilowatt. So now if this is a 3 kilowatt system, this will cost you around 1 lakh to 1.5 lakh, depending on what kind of system do you get. So there are various levels of components that you can buy, just like, in cars, you have different options. There are higher models, lower models. So there's a bit of a variation, but the ballpark figure is around 35,000 to 50,000 rupees per kilowatt. And on the question that is it sufficient to install only one panel, it will generate electricity. Yes, it will be generating some electricity, but it might not be generating enough electricity to meet any actual electrical demand. So for example, one panel like this could be enough to probably power a street light or a small series of lights, right? Or maybe even one fan and one light in just one house. But to actually get enough benefits to power your whole home, or at least 50-60% of your home, you do need a level of panels that is sufficient to meet that demand. So one panel by itself does work, but it might not produce enough electricity to actually give you any benefits as such. So depending on what is your electricity consumption and depending on how much space you have, you can actually decide what level of rooftop solar would be beneficial for you. So, okay, I don't think we have any other questions here. So I'll just quickly go downstairs. Then we can basically go to the next step. Right. So the next step in the rooftop solar journey or the system is actually this. So can anyone read what's written over here in the black box?
It's a little too blurry.
Okay, right. Okay, so this is called an inverter. And I'm sure a lot of of us have heard this term before, but could anyone quickly tell me what does an inverter actually do? What is its job? We might have heard this term in terms of, having backup in our homes.
Stores
Stores
electricity.
electricity. Okay. Anyone else? Right. Okay. So an inverter does not really store electricity. What it does is it converts electricity into form that can be used by appliances. So where we have heard the term inverter usually is when we are talking about power backup in our homes, right? So we have batteries and we have an inverter that whenever there's a power cut, that helps us give power backup. So does anyone know what electricity comes out from a battery in terms of current? There are two terms of current that are usually used. Anyone has any idea?
Direct current and
AC,
alternating
DC.
current.
Yes, yes. So and alternating current, and the current that comes out from a battery or even the solar panel is of direct. But we cannot use direct current directly to power our appliances. You cannot just hook up a battery to your tube light or your washing machine and expect it to work, right? We plug something, work on alternating current. And what the inverter essentially converts the direct current into alternating current. That's its main job. And it also maintains the quality of power. So the voltage, the frequency, it gives you the right bit of power that will be good for your appliances. So the inverter's main job in this system now, in the rooftop solar system, is when the electricity is generated from the rooftop solar above, it takes the direct electricity, direct current, and converts it into alternating current that can be used by all your appliances, or it can be sent to the grid. Now, once the electricity is generated and converted, you need to know how much is being generated, right? You need to keep a track of how much electricity your rooftop solar is producing. So this little white stick that we see at the bottom, this helps us measure that. This is known as data logger. This is a digital measure of the production. You can also have a normal electricity meter that is also known as a solar meter that can help you measure how much energy has been generated. So once the energy has been generated up and now it's been converted here, it's as simple as plugging it into the electrical system of your house. So you see this white box and you see this plug, and basically now what's happening is all the generated electricity is now being fed into the house. There is a very interesting thing that happens at this stage. If your solar panels are producing more electricity than you are consuming, so suppose no lights on, no fans on, no one is at home, suppose, and my panels are still producing electricity, what will happen is that all that electricity will be sent to the grid, since you are generating more than you're consuming. And if you're consuming more, if suppose everyone is at home, there are three fans on, 2 ACs on, and your system is producing some electricity, but it is still less than how much you're consuming. So then only the difference of these two, only the difference between the generation and the consumption, that difference is the amount that you will take from the grid. This is known as metering, right? And this is how you can actually save a lot of money, because whenever you are generating more than you're consuming, you are basically just selling it to the grid, right? And even if you are taking some electricity from the grid, you are essentially taking a small amount of electricity, only the difference between your generation and your consumption. So now I will just show you the last step of this rooftop solar system, which is the net meter. Now, as I explained, the difference is only that in a normal electricity meter, it will just measure how much electricity you're taking from the grid. It will not let you export any electricity to the grid, right?
Akash, we can't see you. Yeah, now we can.
Yeah. So I'm right here. So we were basically there inside, and we were up top on the roof over there. Oh, sorry. And now we are here. So this is the net meter that the company will install when you actually get your rooftop solar system registered. It's a bit blurry right now, but essentially what it does is it is a two-way meter, right? And what a two-way meter does is it will measure how much electricity you're taking from the grid. So the grid being like something like that, right? We've all seen these poles everywhere. So how much electricity you're taking from the grid and how much is going inside the house. And it measures how much electricity has been generated from your rooftop solar and is being sent to the grid. So as I explained, whenever you are generating more than you're consuming, so the difference will keep going towards the grid and it keeps getting credited. So you will basically be selling to the grid and now you become a power producer. So you are just like any other thermal power plant, although on a smaller scale, but you're producing clean energy, right? And you're selling it to the grid so that you're getting benefits for that. And whenever your consumption is more than your generation, then the difference, so how much is your generation, how much ever your consumption is extra, that gets taken from the grid and goes into the house. And this will keep a measure of both of them. So a very basic, simple way of understanding this is, if suppose at the end of the month, I have sent almost 100 units to the grid, right? I have exported 100, but my demand consumption was a bit more, and I took almost 120 units from the grid. So the outflow was 100 units and the inflow was 120 units. So anyone would like to just take a quick guess on how many units do I have to pay for? Okay. So yeah, basically it's very simple. You just pay for a 20 unit difference because you're now sending 100 units to the grid, and you're taking 120 units from the grid. So the difference being 120 minus 100. So you pay for 20 units. But in case it's the other way around, right? In the other way around, I have sent 120 units out and I'm taking only 100 units from the grid. Then I actually get paid for those 20 units. I actually get a credit in my bill that I have 20 units pending that will be reduced from my next bill. And that is how net metering works, and that is how the government is trying to encourage everyone to basically install, become power producers, and help everyone generate clean electricity right from their roofs. So just a quick recap: we saw the whole system. We saw how panels are installed on the roof, how they work. We saw the function of the inverter, of the solar meter, and basically of the net meter, and how it helps keep a track of how much energy is being sent to the grid, how much energy is received from the grid, and it essentially helps you realize the benefits from this rooftop solar. So I hope all of you enjoyed this. I hope all of you learned something. And if there are any questions, you can type them in and we can take them towards the end. And do we have a minute, maybe, Selna?
Yeah.
Okay, so I can also quickly show you something very cool, which would be the app that actually lets you monitor how much electricity you've generated. So I said that white thing is a data logger, and it helps you basically keep a track of how much electricity you've generated, right? So can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the data logger app, and it gives you a real-time figure of how much electricity has been generated from this system. So today, for example, we have generated 7.4 units of electricity from this system. And you can see a monthly total, or you can see a yearly total. So since the past 3 years, this has generated almost 11,000 units of electricity, right? So it's a very cool way of checking what's happening. And you can then see every hour how much electricity has been generated. So currently in this system, we can see there is something wrong with the generation, since from almost 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, there was a fall, right? This should not be zero. This should be a normal curve that is going according to the. So I am looking into this. I am talking to the guy who has installed the rooftop solar system, and I want to figure out what's happening here. But essentially, you can keep a track of how much electricity is produced in the day, in the month. So like, for example, this whole month, this being, suppose this is the whole year of 2020, right? And in April, I produced almost 700 units. In May, it was 660. In March, it was 660. And I've been seeing a fall in the generation in the last few months. And a really cool thing is basically the amount of emissions you reduce, right? So I can see that I have saved almost 11,000 kilograms of emissions. And it might not be easy to understand how much 11,000 kilograms is in terms of emissions, but it's as good as not driving your car for 2.5 years. So imagine all the emissions that come out from driving your car for almost 2.5 years. This installing just this size of a system can help reduce those emissions. So it's a very effective way of reducing your emissions. It's as good as planting 650 full-size trees or not burning 4,000 tons of coal, right? So I would just like everyone to keep these figures in mind and understand the impact even a small action like this can have. So that was it from my side, and I'll hand it back to Selna.
Thank you, Akash. Thank you for the tour of the system. Very interesting. Okay, so if any of you have any questions, we will take that because we were planning to do that activity, but I think we won't have enough time, so we will skip that. But we'll take questions and then we have a small announcement to make. You can unmute and ask the question now. No question? You understood everything? No doubts? Okay. In that case, we will move on. Right. So, so like I said in the beginning, right, we are partnering with BSES, the electricity provider we have in the South Delhi area. So we are going to, we are working with them to help them scale up rooftop solar in Delhi area, and also help them conduct workshops, conduct activities, and tell more and more people about rooftop solar. And we also want to address all the problems that people face when they decide to buy a rooftop solar system, right? So we have a dedicated website just for Solarize campaign and for all the people in Safdarjung area. And on top of that, we are also conducting a competition for young students like you. Let me share my screen to show something. Yes. So this is the competition that we are doing. So we have 3 categories of competition depending on what class you are. So most of you will be in the last category from 9th to 12th grade, right? So we have a competition for digital media design. So you can actually create a digital poster or an infographic or even a short video explaining the rooftop solar technology and communicating the benefits of the system, so that more people can be aware of the technology and its benefits. So that is the major motivation. So you have to come up with a communication media piece. It can be a poster, like a digital poster, or it can be a short video. So you have to create a high resolution version of this and email it to us. So the email ID is given here. And we'll be choosing 2 winners from each of the category from Greenfield School itself. So from the school, from all the entries that we're getting, we'll be choosing 2 winners. And we'll be giving them a special felicitation during our campaign event, and or it will be featured in all our social media handles. And on top of that, those 2 winners from all the categories from the school will get a chance to be like the finalist, and from across the Delhi, we will then evaluate all the submissions, and the final winners will actually get very exciting gift hampers, gift coupons, with which you can actually buy anything you want. So that is the prize, and the last deadline, the last day for the submissions is 31st December. So we will share this poster with your teacher by tomorrow. So and he can send it to all of you. So it's not just whoever is here on the call, it's for the entire school. So do tell your friends and your classmates to also participate and about the competition. This is a chance to win like cool prizes. It's also a chance to bring out your creativity and try out and see if you like how good you are with movie making, if you are interested in movie making, for instance, and or like digital poster creation. So do try it out and do participate, and encourage everybody to participate as well. All right. So, and if you have any questions, you can email at the same ID, or you can call this numbers to like if you have any questions about the competition, the submission, or any difficulty that you face. All right. So that's all from our side, and I can also see like a lot of people have already left, so we won't keep you any longer. Thank you so much. And thank you, Akshay sir, and the staff at Greenfield School for giving us this opportunity to do this workshop. And yeah, like if you have any more questions, any doubts, to reach out to us. You can also check out our website, Solarize Saptajang. It's dedicated for all the people in Saptajang area. And of course, definitely do participate in the competition. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so much for the workshop.
Thank you.
Very
Bye.
enlightening. I hope the students must have learned something.
Yeah, we hope so too. Yes.
We hope so too. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.